Well, let's do it. Hold or fire, Super Bowl edition here, as we have 13 days before we get to Super Sunday. So we see, and we just talked about it, where this line opened up with the Chiefs pretty much 2.5. And then, whoom, that got hit big and swung that pendulum back all the way through 0. And now the wrecking ball goes towards the Eagles, laying 1.5. Totals come down a little bit, at least here at South Point. 49.5 was up 50.5 when it opened up. So Amal Shah, 13 days removed. If you like the Eagles laying 1.5, hold or fire?
I would fire. I think the number is going to go up. I already saw just now a couple places gone up to 2. I would look at Philadelphia here, Dave. I think they've got a great opportunity in this matchup. The one concern you have from a Kansas City standpoint, they're very capable of winning this game, is health. You know, Ben referenced Patrick Mahomes' ankle issue coming in to this game yesterday. Now you're concerned about it. 2 weeks is going to help immensely. We saw Kadarius Toney get hurt, Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, Snead on the defense. They've got a plethora of different injuries that you're concerned with. However, you talk about having a bye at the most opportune time. This couldn't be any better. Weather's not going to be a factor, which I think benefits Kansas City in this game. I think Philly, based on the way they're designed, it obviously has a factor because they throw the ball, but I don't think as much. I think the Chiefs will benefit from playing in Glendale in the Dome and State Farm. It's much more beneficial.
I'm glad you brought that up. So we're going to Arizona, and if you've never seen that stadium up close and personal, they roll that field out there, right? So, yes, it's a dome, but it still feels like maybe a slower track, kind of like we saw yesterday at Arrowhead. So, I would just wonder if that grass field is going to help out the Chiefs a little bit. Versus the Eagles, who do play on, play there at the link and a little bit different conditions. Do you make anything of that it is still a grass field, even though it's inside of a dome?
No, I think the dome is the big factor, right? No wind, no concerns from that standpoint. The grass field's great. You don't have those types of injuries that you'd have back in the day on AstroTurf, so obviously that's a benefit. But this is the ideal conditions to play the game in. This should be a lot of fun. Should be a terrific matchup, I think.
We can't seem to find an over. For those overbackers out there, you're coming up snake eyes here in the last, 7 games here in the NFL playoffs. I don't know here as we sit on a Monday if we're going to hold our fire on the total of 49.5. Again, it's come down a little bit, about a point. I think about 50.5. It still feels high to me. I've been saying this. I feel like a broken record with a lot of these games. Like even the Niners-Eagles games of 45.5. It just felt high to me. And then, of course, when Brock Purdy went out, you went, well, they just can't. They can't even. I can't believe it got that close to getting to the total of 31-7 because they just can't formulate an offense. Injuries happen. It's hard to handicap. We talk about it a lot on the network, and we should. But, it's easier for an under to hit because of the unforeseen versus a lot of things have to go right for overs to hit.
Well, I would agree with you in the sense that more things have to go correct for you in order for an over to hit than an under. But, you look in that Chiefs game yesterday, I thought a couple of failed opportunities in the red zone by both teams. The one thing I'm surprised more teams in the NFL don't do, when the Bengals had the ball with 8 seconds remaining at the 4-yard line or the 3-yard line, wherever it was.
Before halftime.
Yeah.
Yep.
To me, if I'm the Kansas City defense,
hold.
Exactly right, Dave. I am tackling every eligible receiver on the play. I don't care if I get called for. I want every referee to have emptied their flags and their hats. There should be a penalty on everybody on this play. I don't care if you're grabbing face masks, doing whatever. Because then what you do is you force Zach Taylor into, are you going to gamble for the 7 or are you going to take the 3?
Yeah. I was a little bit, by the way, Zach Taylor, I've kind of done a 180 on Zach. The way he handled himself after the game and everything. I was a little bit, if we're going to really mince and get into the weeds on play calling, in that sequence, they had 1st and goal. They threw a quick out, just jump ball, incomplete. It was the second. There was a second down play that took too long to develop, and they tried to do it like an out at the goal line. And I think 5 seconds ran off the clock. Then they only had 4, so they kicked the field goal. I thought they should have done the jump ball again. They could have ran that play twice and then still kicked the field goal on 4th down if they didn't succeed. Because we saw, I think it was T. Higgins in the second half, where he just goes up and gets it over 2 defenders. You had single coverage. You got those big behemoth receivers. I would have done that twice and still had time then to kick the field goal on 4th down.
Yeah, I think, though, the one thing is with 8 seconds remaining, the play is going to take at least 4 seconds. So I think either way, you're stuck with one play.
Yeah, unless you do it in 3, like really quick, right? Like no 3-step drop, just a 1-step drop and throw.
From the problem is, I don't know if you, in that duration, you can get into the end zone, right? Like, I mean, you're getting off the line.
Yeah, it's close.
So, I mean, you can't take the risk of going like the Chiefs did last year. Remember at the end of the half? They messed up. They didn't end up getting any points. So, I'm a big advocate of, I love what they did there. They went with a quick play. You know, Burrow's going to just get rid of it, put yourself in a situation, either it's going to be a touchdown or you're taking 3 points. My point from a defensive standpoint was that if you get the penalties and the ball is moved towards the goal line, you force Cincinnati to take a calculated risk. Do you want to go for it, or do you want to take just sure 3 points? And Dave, you, Kelley, and I have talked about a lot. I'm a big proponent of taking the field goals in the first half because they add up over time. They just become so vitally important in this game. We saw 5 field goals kicked in this game. So you saw the importance of it. It put you in a position to be tied late. And then you thought with McPherson or with Butker, there would be an opportunity for either team. They get inside the 35, they're probably going to win the game.
You know, I'm looking at the total here. And again, as we just hypothetically, and I'm not saying you have to bet it. I'm with them all, by the way. If you like the Eagles, I'd fire today in the 1.5. This number is going to go up. I think it's going to get to 3 before we get to kick. We'll find out. But it'll probably be in that 2.5 range. So if you do like the Eagles, that seems to be the smart move. We would say hold on the Chiefs for the same rationale here. That if you like the money line, right now it's plus $1.05 here at South Point, you're probably going to get closer to 115, maybe even a 120 if you just wait over the next 13 days. The total is the tricky one. That if you had to, and we're not encouraging you to do so, I would not actually fire. I would do a Amal Shah here hold on 49.5 because I don't know where this is going to go. The public wants to bet the over. And it feels like, because, again, we don't know the injury situation, that the under would make more sense today. Those are going to be conflicting things here in the marketplace, which maybe keeps that number right around where it is. I don't know that we're going to get a lot of variance in the next 13 days.
Yeah, we haven't seen a ton of movement on that yet. I think the side we could see the same thing with, just from what kind of based off what we saw last week with Kansas City, not knowing about Mahomes. Now I think we know a little bit more about what Mahomes is going to look like based off of what we saw in that game yesterday. That yes, he's going to play. He's going to be pretty darn effective. But mobility is going to be limited. There's a few throws that he struggled with where he had to go cross body and stuff like that and really test that. But Amal, like, this is one where we always talk about Super Bowl betting and how money lines will always get bet nearly as much as spreads, which is pretty rare. Usually it's spreads that get bet more heavily in the NFL during the course of a regular season. This is one I can't imagine when Joe Public shows up on the weekend of the Super Bowl. They're seeing a plus money number next to Patrick Mahomes. They're not jumping on this. So I don't know. Maybe we don't see a lot of movement over the next 2 weeks, but that final weekend, I think this shifts more back to the Chiefs side.
I tend to agree with you on that weekend. I think you will see more Chiefs. It's going to be interesting when you look at this matchup for me is Kansas City's health, because the one thing that we talked about when we started the show today is Philadelphia, yes, they won the game 31-7, dominant fashion. But you had a roughing the kick call that allowed the team to get an extra score on that drive. It's like baseball. When you commit that error and don't get the third out, that fourth out, the teams are too good.
Absolutely.
They're going to take advantage of it. We saw Philly take advantage of it. Devontae Smith incompletion.
They were gift-wrapped 7 points to begin the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from that standpoint, there's arguments to be made on both sides there. To me, though, the key is Mahomes. Can he get healthy enough over 2 weeks? And I think, look, based on where he was last week, I got to give him a ton of credit.
Yes.
I mean, to me, now having 2 weeks, even if you retweak the ankle, this guy's going to be fine. And I'll tell you, if you're Patrick Mahomes, this is a huge, huge legacy game.
I agreed, because you'd like to get, I can't believe, over the hump of being just a one-time Super Bowl champion, as Mahomes is. But it does make a difference in legacy.
They start to add up.
They do.
I mean, last night was a big milestone game, too. I mean, just simply because of what their wins and losses, or lack thereof, against Cincinnati.
I agree. I by the way, I don't know that Patrick Mahomes has ever been an underdog in a playoff game, and I think that's about to change. Right? And again, we can check that, but I do not believe he's been a dog yet in a playoff game. Certainly has not been at home, as they were, depending on where you get the number, earlier in the week against the Bengals, and of course they flipped and closed as the favorite by the end of that. So we do have that prospect. And I think Kelley's right. People are going to see the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, plus money in a money line. For some, that's going to be too good to pass up.
I would agree with you, and I think it's going to be interesting. The one advantage of betting money lines, especially with the dog, is you can come back the other way in a game opportunity, regardless of what it is, and take a price. I'll give you a quick example. If you bet, for example, in the game yesterday on the money line, before the game started, Kansas City. You could have taken anywhere between $2 to $6 on the Bengals at any point in time, so you have zero risk left on the Chiefs. When the Chiefs punted to Cincinnati with a couple of minutes remaining, and they had that conversion after the third down, after the intentional grounding, they convert the long third down. You could have gotten the Chiefs at a plus price. Look, if you're doing it and you're paying attention, there's going to be opportunities throughout the course of the game. There's very few games. Even in this game, it took until late in the fourth quarter to have an opportunity with KC, but it still presented itself.
I'd be curious what the number would be if we knew Patrick Mahomes was 100%. It would not be Eagles 1.5.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.